Hi, boys and girls. I wonder, have you ever been on a ship? Now, for many of you, maybe you used your car as a family and you headed off to Scotland or England. And to do that, you would have travelled on a ship, either from Cairnryan or from Liverpool. Now, if you have, I want you to think about it. If not, try to imagine what it might be like. Or maybe even get some help and look up online just what the insides of those ships look like. But for me, I thought they were really comfortable. In most places on the ship, there were some really soft seats, and in some cases, really luxurious seats that you could stretch out on. Some would also have had a cabin with beds in it, so they could have a sleep. As far as food is concerned, they have cafes or restaurant where you can buy coffee and tea and lots of drinks and many different types of food. And while it can be a wee bit expensive, it's usually really nice. As well as that, many of the ships today have a cinema where you can go and watch a film. Or many of them have a play area where you as children can go and have lots of fun. And what's more, the ship is safe. It would be very unusual for one of those ships to sink. In fact, they cross over from Larne and Belfast to Cairnryan, and they cross over from Belfast to Liverpool a number of times every day. And you never hear of anything bad happening. They're really comfortable, safe ships. Now, when I was your age, that's a long time ago. I know you're all saying that. But in those days, when I was going across, maybe to Cairnryan or Stranraer as it was then, and going over on that ferry, maybe going to BB Camp or something like that. As far as I remember, the seats that were there were all hard. There was no such thing as cushions or anything like that on the seats. There was usually so many people that there weren't enough seats to go around, so you ended up having to sit on the floor. I suppose I should say the deck. In those days as well, the food was actually quite poor. And as I said already, there were far too many people. But still, it was reasonably safe, albeit not as comfortable as it was today. But a few minutes ago, for the reading from the Bible, we were thinking about a man called Saul. He was then called Paul, that we know a lot of stories about. And he went on a ship. He went from Cilicia to Salamis, the island of Cyprus. Now you can look up on a map where that is. It's still there today. Maybe you should get some help and have a look to see where that was at. But the ships in those days probably had no seats at all. They certainly had no cafe or no restaurant. And they were quite dangerous. It would be very easy to fall over the side. Or if there was a bit of a storm, quite often the boats would sink. But God told Saul that he wanted him to go with a man called Barnabas and go and tell other people about Jesus. He told him to get on the boat And amongst other places, he was to go to Cyprus. But Paul did what God told him, even though it was quite dangerous. He went with Barnabas on his first missionary journey. And the first leg of that journey was to Cyprus. Now, over the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at different parts of the journey and seeing some of the people and some of the problems that he came up against. But throughout his journey, Paul told people about Jesus. You see, he wasn't afraid to talk about Jesus. He wasn't afraid to tell people because God was with him. And even though it might have been dangerous, he still knew that God was with him. And you know, boys and girls, God wants us to tell others about Jesus as well. He wants us to tell them about how special Jesus is. And that's not always going to be easy. But remember, we shouldn't be afraid because God is with us. Just in the same way that God helped Paul, he will also help us. And so we don't need to be afraid. We can talk to others about Jesus. Now we're going to sing Your Hymn. We used this just a couple of weeks ago, but it fits in really well as we think about going to different places and telling others about Jesus. The song is called One More Step Along the World I Go.